Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report for the 12th of April. Well, the other day was, again, another soft, lackluster, but it was really more significant in what we were seeing in the readings here, because what we saw was a rejection, for the most part, of shorts being able to overcome the bullish sentiment with the full reset of steel here. And once short-term buyers, mid-term buyers started coming in, the expectation is that would continue, and actually we're seeing that here in the pre-market action. Not a big surprise as it pushes right back up to the highs, and may even break out into new ones well within the scenarios that we were looking for. There wasn't anything bubbling over that looked hyper negative. In fact, we talked about this, where the softness that we were seeing in the euro, that any spike back up would result in an even bigger bonus for the S&P because of that exchange value. I know it doesn't sound like a significant amount, but it does add up. And any reason to justify moving price, there you go. And so this little bounce here, also equating into what we're seeing on the intraday charts for the bounce. And as we predicted, or just knew because of what we could see from our readings, bringing gold right back down to what we expected, the little low bounce retest. Convenient. So that's why I'm just jumping to the 5K, because really was lackluster overall, and that's why we had mostly this red right through here as we came down to the bottom. And it became much more interesting at that point, because here we're below the red line, we've got our crossover, we're still below the negative 13, so all these opportunities just below the 23% line were attractive. It just continued to fluctuate flat until we get the X that took place right about here, which was just over the 23%, right at 89 value. And we've been in a straight upward tilt with additional buys happening right at the 50% mark, and boom, you see this 2905, that was a previous algo from way back. So it kind of capped out for a little bit. We've just passed back above it. Going to come back to it though. Let's see, we've got this positive extreme right here from the breakout. And that would be the next perceived intraday low, 2894 range, on a more significant pullback. Doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon right here, given that DOC little weakness cross right here is not a factor when you're having red breaking into a new zone, which is why you got no reset on any of that at all, and the new breakout of gold continuing to rise. So that we play around this 2905 would be, well, I think very consistent in there. We may even see some of this fill back a little bit further than that. If we get it all the way back to the primary setup, that would be interesting, because at that point then we'll see where activity is, and we now have the range. You got 2880 at the bottom side from an algo standpoint, and then all the way up to 2905. You can see that we also, just from a preponderance of trade, right around this 86 point, there was a lot of action on both sides of it. So all in all, this is really pretty consistent with what our expectations have been overall, and that we're at the 29 despite everyone's consternation that everything was going to implode. It was just a bunch of hype, not supported by what we were seeing the real money doing, and that's always the most important. What is the real money doing? We'll go ahead and take a look at the 50K. Let's see that it went ahead and took the slight increase, and most of this was just because of the duration of that trade. Not per se from a reading standpoint. There's built into it a set amount where if you don't get a significant enough movement, it's just a break even, and takes that out. You can see already in the breakout it's bought pretty much at the same thing and just continuing to rise from there. No shock with any of that. So I think it's all good stuff in between, and we've got some clear lines for any significant breakdown, but you're going to need to see the DOC red come off quite a bit before anything like that's significant. So good action to consolidate, and now the little bit of the breakout. And this is what we talked about, where you're going to have a complete reset at the highs, and as soon as there's some activity, boom, we were going to push forward, and that's exactly what we're starting to see now. So everything pretty much intact. There wasn't anything unique about what was happening with any of this from that DOC spread. It pretty much sideways until it finally did break down. And it's one of those things where it's like a pain because you're just like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And you're just like forever and forever and nothing happens. And the same thing on the upside where it's just kind of sideways until finally they've acquired enough of their position to make a move. And that's where you get these blowouts. And at that particular point, they'll be making their exit move, which we will start to see in the DSC where we're making new highs on lower shakeout readings. And we'll be able to go the other direction with it. So as always, I will put up anything that's relevant, but for now, that's the long and the short of it, mostly long. As always, trade well. I'll put up anything on the Skype chat, should it be relevant.